Welcome to Pax Europiana, the podcast about peace and prosperity in Europe. And I'm very honored this afternoon to have a very special guest. I have Mr. Wildberger, Wolfgang Wildberger, the president of the Austrian Bosnian Friendship Association, who has a lot of in-depth knowledge about Austrian Bosnian history and about our relation with Bosnia, which is, of course, such an important country in the Austrian history. Mr. Wildberger, I'm very glad you take time for this interview, and please present yourself to the audience.
Yes, I'm glad and thankful to get the possibility for such an interview with you. Yes, coming to my person, it is I am a retired officer of the Austrian Federal Armed Forces. I'm living in the most eastern province in Burgenland, but working with the army, I was posted in Graz for nearly 30 years. Born in 1948, I was after my school going to the military academy in Wiener Neustadt and was then transferred to as tank officer to a battalion in Graz, and so all my military career I spent in Graz with a short break south of Graz in Leibniz. During my career, I made also 9 foreign services, all in Near East. So starting in Egypt, then Syria, Israel, Lebanon, as well as 5 tours in Cyprus, which was, of course, very widened my horizon. And at the end, I was a member of the staff in higher command in Graz, and then I got retired, and now I'm living back in Burgenland. So I was married, but I'm now a widower, and my children still living in Graz, and I'm grandfather of 2 very nice boys as well.
Congratulations, that's really important thing. And also the situation is that Graz is in a way the capital for Southeastern Europe. It's very close to the ex-Yugoslavian border. And so you always had this perspective, I think, for Bosnia, for ex-Yugoslavia. There was even, I think, in 91, there was a fighter MiG above Graz during the war in Yugoslavia. So there's a perspective for Bosnia always at your doorstep.
Yes, that's true. And this is the background for the Austrian Bosnian Herzegovinian Society I'm president of, because the Bosnian Herzegovinian regiments in that period where Austria and Hungary were governing Bosnia and Herzegovina, these regiments were always posted in the huge cities. So the number 1 regiment was in Vienna, number 2 in Graz, number 3 in Budapest, number 4 in Trieste at this time, because the reason behind was this young Bosnians show a very modern, fashionable city, whilst the other regiment, they were always sent around and rotated in the whole monarchy area every, let's say, 2 to 4 years. Not so the Bosnian regiments. That meant that the Bosnian Herzegovinian Infantry Regiment number 2 was always in garrison in Graz, and from there they went into war. And on the other hand, that meant that also future reserve officers, they were always looking which regiment is presently in the area I'm living in, and therefore it had quite a number of mostly Styrian reserve officers who fought in the war with the Bosnians from the district of Banja Luka. second regiment was from the district of Banja Luka, what also meant that the majority were Serbic Orthodox, whilst the number 1 was from district Sarajevo, number 3 from Tuzla, number 4 from Mostar. And after the war, the officers who survived the war went together and wanted to celebrate. First of all, they wanted to meet each other, and then they started to celebrate the so-called Traditions Day, because the second regiment was very fiercely fighting at the region of 7 communities, Sette Comuni, and conquering the Monte Melletta in 7th June of 1916, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Stevo Dujic, who was a Croat, by the way. And
this was in the Italian war, at the Italian front in Isonzo.
No, Isonzo is more to the east, and Sette Comuni are more to the west. So it was that tradition also continued after the Second World War. So there was still officers living, and once the Austrian Federal Army was established in the 60s, they went to one of the regiments in Graz, near Graz, and asking them if they can have some assistance. And at this time, the tradition was established in the army, mainly looking at the old Austrian-Hungarian army, and so it became a traditions unit. So later on, I became commander of this regiment, and therefore I kept this tradition until now, so to say. And we established the society in 1989 as an official society. Before it was simply a club, so to say, and open it also for others, not only military, or what means that we also from the Bosnian community in Graz, we have members in this society, of course. And now that is the reason behind is a military, but now it is a society within the umbrella of the so-called PAN, as a partnership of all nations in Austria, and it also, let's say, gave us the possibility to create and to keep very good relations to Bosnia-Herzegovina and the community in Austria.
Very good. What are the main activities of your society today?
The main activity, first of all, our aim is to convince the Bosnian Herzegovinian people to work together, not beside or against, since this was the big success of the, for example, of this regiment, or even on the civilian side, in the former period. And so therefore we work for peace within the communities. We, of course, as I said, celebrate this tradition days by inviting the Bosnian Herzegovinians as well as the Italians, who were the former enemies in this period. Therefore, we have this celebration every year in another country. So it is once in Austria, then in Bosnia, then in Italy, and therefore also is a sign for international peace. And is in this case we are I must say, rather successful. And then we published some articles and work with books who are Bosnia-Herzegovina is theme, and so that is the main goal is, or the main aim is, to bring those people together and to keep them in good friendship and cooperation.
Mr. Wildberger, let me ask you about the history, because Bosnia and Austria, we lived 40 years in one common country. From 78 to 1918, it was one country where Bosnia and Austria were together. What is our common history? What is the remaining common cultural and historic heritage which you would see today in Bosnia and in Austria about this 40 years together?
Yeah, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, there is quite a lot of heritage from the Austro-Hungarian period. Let me say it is the Austrian-Hungarian administrators were from the very beginning, and as you said, 1878, it came to Austria due to the outcome of the Berlin Conference, and they were absolutely, the governors at this time were absolutely doing everything to develop Bosnian, for example, first of all, the Bosnian economy, and that still can be seen. Some example: already in the first 2 years, a railway from Croatia to Senica was built, 190 kilometers, and in the following 2 years, it was prolonged down to Sarajevo, another 80 years. So by 1907, the government had built 1,022 kilometers, railway kilometers. They had more than 1,000 kilometers of main roads and another more than 1,000 of local roads, together with 121 bridges. Before there were only, let's say, donkey paths there, and so that was, of course, a big development for the country, and the still main roads and railway are those who were started to create in the Austro-Hungarian period. And then furthermore, forestry or coal mining were strong developed, and still is. Iron and steel works were built. Senica is still, if you pass Senica, you see now, of course, huge buildings there from the period of steel production. In significant developed was agriculture. So Austria were set up model farms or model vineyard in Mostar, for example, and the model fish farm. So people could brought up to the latest developed level in this period, and therefore the production output was, of course, much better than before. And also an agricultural college was established near Ilica, it is near Sarajevo. And of course, the more delicate task facing the Austro-Hungarian administration was the handling of the 3 main religious communities. But rather soon it was successful to get agreements with the Pope in Rome, with the Archbishop in Constantinople, and with the Sultan, who was in personal union Caliph in Istanbul, thus creating independent religious hierarchies. Because before, for example, the Catholic bishop responsible for Bosnia was not in Bosnia, was outside, and similar to the Orthodox side. So I would like to quote an American journalist who visited Bosnia in 1902, and he said, members of the different religious faith mix with each other on amicable terms and show mutual respect and mutual toleration. The courts are wisely and honestly administered. Justice is awarded to every citizen, regardless of his religion or social position. And this again to achieve is also the aim of our Austro-Hungarian, Austro-Bosnian-Herzegovinian Friendship Society.
So in modern ways, it was a kind of a nation-building effort, really substantial infrastructure, and also trying to build up and integrate Bosnia into the Western world.
Yes, for example, the highways in the federation part of Bosnia is built by an Austrian company, whilst this in the Serbian part is built by a Serbian company. However,
that's now the modern history of the highway situation.
Because this is the modern history.
No, let me ask first about the common history first, and the times of the 40 years where we were together. Do you think that Austria itself has a bit forgotten the common history which we had, the common statehood, the investment, and the common time here in the Austrian public? Is it present enough, or should there be more information about these 40 common years?
I'm afraid that only a smaller part of our population and the respective personnel are well informed on that common history. On the other side, the Bosnians were even less informed because in the Tito period that was not at all any subject to learn or to teach in the schools or so on. And I myself, when I keep speeches within the, let's say, Bosnian community, always mostly young people come to me and thank for the information what they never got before. On the other hand, it happened twice to me when I was in Sarajevo that someone come, an older man, asking, "You are Austrian?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Please come and occupy us again. We wouldn't defend ourselves." So he obviously.
I just want to explain that you have no intentions.
Yeah, and that, as I said, it happened already twice to me, but it shows that these people think that this common period was one of the best in their history.
It was also when you go through Sarajevo, I was with my children 2 years ago. It's a lot of buildings from that period. Everything seems to be very similar, like Graz or like Vienna from the term of architecture.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Yeah, this common style you can find throughout the monarchy, and in particular in the city of Sarajevo. If you have been there, so you saw the nucleus, the old, let's say, Turkish part, but just they themselves call it the Austrian district is now starting, and there you see all these typical buildings as you can see in other cities in the old Monica. Also in Italy, for example, you see exactly where Austria ended and Italy started, because exactly on that typical style from Francesco Josefinic style, and that is also can be seen in Sarajevo, as you say. Yeah.
Talking Sarajevo, I have to ask you about 1914. Of course, Franz Ferdinand, the assassination. You certainly have been in the museum in Sarajevo there. What's your take on that, and how did the things develop then, 1914 and World War I? What was the role of Bosnia and Austrian relations, and what's the memory of these tragic events?
Yeah, Sarajevo, 1914. It was, as everybody knows, the reason for the outbreak of World War I. So far, so clear. The superpower at this time, Austria-Hungary, had to keep her face and declared war on Serbia, also under big pressure of Germany. But the war declared was without any territorial claims, whilst all other nations who were involved in First World War had territorial claims on their respective neighbors. Not so Austria. So Bosnia became the first operations area, of course, clear. To attack Serbia, the Serbs fought heroically, sorry.
Like heroes, yeah.
Because they were experienced they were experienced due to the two Balkan wars they fought in 1912-13. And during 1914, the Austro-Hungarian army was twice repulsed on Serbian soil with huge losses on both sides. And later on, until summer 1915, they could held their country free, and then with a new offensive under the German general von Mackensen, and with the entry of Bulgaria on the side of Austria and Germany, the Serbian army conducted its retreat down to the Albanian coast, joined later on those who were remaining, and there were quite a few, joined the Allied army and came back in 1918, reconquering Belgrade on 1st of November, and then moving into Bosnia and into the Vojvodina, which of course then also became part of Yugoslavia. On the other side, the Bosnian-Herzegovinian regiments and field battalions and other units, they fought throughout the war on the Austrian side till the very end, were always loyal. They fought on all fronts, and after the war, all reports from officers I know were full of respect and honor to the Bosnian-Herzegovinian soldiers. So that was their First World War for them in this time.
The Bosnian regiments in the Austrian army had a special role, especially at the Italian front, at the Isonzo front.
Yeah, first of all, in 1914 they were fighting against the Russians because Italy came into war in 1915, clear, and then they were then transferred, and one must say they were always used as firefighting units. So especially on very places who were very hard to fight, and therefore that created their good let's say name within the Austro-Hungarian army. For example, particularly this second regiment from Banja Luka became the most decorated regiment throughout the whole Austro-Hungarian army. From all units and regiments, they received the most medals for bravery, and which is even interesting because the majority within the soldiers were Serbs. So a Serb killed Franz Ferdinand, but on the other hand, the Serbs fighting on our side were those who finally received the most medals for bravery. Yes.
And on the Italian front, what was the role of the Bosnian regiments on the Italian front?
Again, they were included in the normal organization, but usually they are used as reserves right behind the front line, and when the Italians were successful in breaking in, then they were counterattack. Or when the Austrians attacked, they were normally those on the hottest spot to attack, and the most famous operation for again this second was the conquer of Monte Mileta. That happened that they attacked on a hill and finally could conquer the positions of the Italians. Also, they were quite much more on soldiers and weapons. However, one was saying the Bosnians maybe they did not move that quickly forward, but they moved always forward. So yes, they had 206 killed in action, but the Italians had much more at this time. Okay, it was a tragic happening as it is in wars, but as I said, after that it was still remembered until nowadays, just to show, because there were again Serbs as a Serbic Orthodox Catholic Croats and what we call now Bosniaks. At this time, all were called Bosniaks. Fighting together, and only together they could come to this success. And that is the let's say the saying that we say, look, work together and you will reach your goals.
Absolutely. Mr. Wildberger, one question. We have an Austrian military museum, the so-called Heeresgeschichtliche Museum in Vienna. Do you think the Austrian Bosnian history and the military contribution of the Bosnians is sufficiently represented at that museum?
It, from my point of view, the museum is doing well in the presentation of the military history of Austria, and it offers from time to time special presentations on various historical happenings. World War I is always on the agenda, I must say, and I mean also the Bosnian side is included, not overwhelming. However, it is possible, or maybe it was already, that this once becomes a special exhibition. We could also work on that, but in generally, I must say the museum is doing well in presenting the World War I. Yes.
How was then the Austrian Bosnian heritage kept after Bosnia was integrated? Also, Slovenia and Croatia was in the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and then it was part of Yugoslavia. How was the Austrian Bosnian memory kept during the times of Yugoslavia?
Yeah, you mean Austrian relations between?
Yes.
Yeah, there was no. I mean, there was no special relation to Bosnia at this time. I mean, even Austria, even I think most Austrians even did not know that the various part republics of Yugoslavia. It was just Yugoslavia. Yes. Nowadays, sometimes you can say out of the name where is he coming from, or she, to be partial, but I cannot say much to this. In after, when was it? It started in the 60s or 70s. So as far from my own point of view, I can say the Yugoslav workers were very welcome in Austria. It may not have been planned that they stay here, but they did, and I must say they are, from my point of view, well integrated. And nobody was asking, are you Orthodox, Catholic, Muslim, or Jew? So I think especially the former Yugoslavs, no matter where they come from, are in Austria well integrated, and I think in my field they are welcome. Yeah.
There's over 150,000 Bosnians. Starting was basically the so-called guest worker, Gastarbeiter treaties, which Austria concluded with Yugoslavia. I think it was in 1971. And from that moment on, Bosnians could come to the Austrian labor market again.
Yeah. Now we have the communities in Austria. So I think the Bosnian community in Styria is, as far as I know, more than 30,000. But the problem I see is that even the Serbs from Bosnia, as well as the Croats from Bosnia, they more have the desire to see them as Croats or as Serbs, and are more integrated in this community. The Bosniaks, of course, they form their own community, and in Graz there is a very big cultural center, as they call it. Of course, there's one part of it is a mosque, and my society also assisted and helped them and spent money when it was due to be built. In Vienna, I always there are some people there ask me whether I am prepared to support their desire to become an accepted minority or Volksgruppe in Austria? My answer is always clear. Yes, very much I do, but we are speaking of a Bosnian Volksgruppe and not of a Bosniakisch Volksgruppe. And first of all, you must bring the three main groups living in Austria now together in one community, and then we can do the next step. That is, it is really, yeah, still a problem, or as I see, is not running well from my point of view. Yeah.
This is a debate because Austria has a registered Slovenian minority and a registered Croatian minority, already autochthon. And the question is about a Bosnian minority also to be fully recognized as a minority in Austria.
Yes, that is their goal, but it comes always from the Bosniakisch side, and so I'm afraid that the other two are not really eager, because they have their support from the Serb and Croat community in Austria.
The most prominent example of the good integration is, of course, our present Minister of Justice. She is federal minister and member of the government. She was a refugee at the age of 10, leaving Bosnia, and then being so successfully integrated, she made it to the top level of politics.
True. Yeah, and this is a very positive development. Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Wildberger, let me ask you now about the war, about the very decisive years of the breakup of Yugoslavia when Bosnia became an independent country again. You were a high-ranking military officer already in Graz at that time. How was it for you in '91 when the border position of Slovenia, Austria, there was this mortar attack and there was this dramatic moments of the MiG fighter jet over Graz? How did you experience this dramatic year, 91, 92?
Yeah, 91. Yeah, of course, the wars in Yugoslavia, they are in a following sequence. First Slovenia, then Croatia, where the Slovenians still are very angry about it, that they not started at the same time with them. And then later on, Bosnia and Herzegovina is. Yeah, from the military point of view, it was again our special service already was telling the respective political sides that it will happen. The question was when it will happen, and it happened. Yeah, the from the military point of view, when it comes to the Slovenian war, because it was directly on our border, that was to avoid any violation of Austrian soil, and this was a very tricky situation, since the Serb unit in Bad Radkersburg was besieged by the Slovenians. It was a tank unit, and they, what we already know, they really planned to make a shortcut, so to say, via Bad Radkersburg to Siegeldorf and then back to Yugoslavia again. It would be a clear violation of our sovereignty, of course, and that was also the reason that even in the first step we had no armored units, tanks, and so on the border. That later on we had there also heavy weapons to avoid this. And so from that view, it had some, let's say, possibility and even probability that this could happen. By air, it happened, yes. Was it accidentally or not is now not relevant. Fortunately, an own fighter was in the air and could show and demonstrate that we are also present in the air. Okay, this was, but the Slovenians managed to get its country free soon, and now we have very good relations to our neighbor in the south. Yes. Later on, then what Croatia and then Bosnia-Herzegovina. At this period, Austria was not really militarily involved because we did not participate in the UN force, in the UNPRO 4. For main reason, from my point of view, was that out of the historical situation we had centuries ago with Serbia, we did not want to present in front of them Austrian soldiers, from my point of view. But I was okay. I was a commanding officer at this time, but not in the highest staff. But you know, once was clear that this from the political side, politics have sometimes other thinkings than military, and it might be good so, yes. Later on, when it was then transferred to the implementation and further to the stabilization force, then we did not hesitate to participate with a logistics unit, yes, in Visoko. And Visoko was one of the commanders, was my deputy in Graz, and also my son was serving with this unit, and I was invited to visit it. And from that time on, we are present militarily in Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Mr. Alois Mock, the Austrian foreign minister and our European hero who led Austria into the EU, he was very active friend of the independence of Bosnia. In 1992, Austria was one of the first countries to recognize independent Bosnia. What's your take on that, and what was his role? And I think he's very revered to this day in Bosnia as a hero and one friend of and supporter of Bosnian independence.
Yeah, Mock, from my point of view, he of course, it must have been. I was not a member, but later on, one could read that there were, of course, quite a lot of discussions on how should Austria react and act, and one of the main reasons was our, let's say, historical responsibility that we could not stay aside, and that was Mock was able to convince the others to go this way, and that is really his merit. Yeah. So
during the tragic events,
right. And Bosnia is still very thankful to Austria for this. Yes.
Yeah, the 1st of March 2092, the Independence Day, the referendum, obviously a day to celebrate.
Yeah.
Tragically, later then the war broke out with the Serb aggression and the effort to divide Bosnia, and there was a lot of victims. In Austria, there was an unprecedented wave of solidarity called Neighbor in Need, Nachbar in Not, and there was huge efforts to help refugees and to support the victims of the war. Can you describe and outline some of this important activity which Austria did to contribute to help the neighbors?
Yeah, again, what I can confirm and say, I was present was that, for example, the army was also involved in this support of refugees coming in mass, and for example, in Gradkorn, north of Graz, quite a big part of the garrison of the was closed and made free for quite a huge number of refugees, and this, let's say, camp, but they, of course, they were living in military buildings, was run by the military, so they were, of course, fed and supported with everything what was needed, and that was a part of the Austrian army in Styria, and as far as I know, another barracks was also made free for the refugees from Bosnia, and step by step they ran through this administration program what was necessary. Yeah, this was the others was then where also our society was involved together with the Styrian Chamber of Commerce, because it was a partner of my unit. They were sent goods and equipment and everything, medicine and whatsoever, always down to Bosnia. And later on, when we were also already in Bosnia, then also military means were used to transport all this. On the other hand, that was one of the, and also private initiatives were quite a lot also in my area, who started with his own vehicles to bring goods down to Bosnia and so on. Yeah. So on our one side, we helped those who came up to us and brought down things who were urgently needed in Bosnia itself.
There was a big wave of solidarity and support for the victims in the Bosnian War. That was really very, I think Austria can be very proud about its role here.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Once there was this American imposed peace agreement, Dayton, then it was SFOR's time. And then there was also Austria soldiers and the Austrian army participating in the stabilization force after 96. And I think today it's the biggest Austrian mission together with Kosovo. The Austrian soldiers are working outside of Austria. Even Austria is a neutral country, they have the lead in Bosnia. And can you describe about the Austrian army's role in the SFOR and the contribution to stability and security in Bosnia?
Yeah, our role in SFOR was to provide a support battalion to assist and support the other units, but SFOR was always more or less brought down, and later on it was a NATO run operation, and later on EU took over and created OIFOR, and now Austria is the biggest contributor to OIFOR, and therefore the commanding officer is now since quite a few years always an Austrian general, and Austria runs their mixed battalion with the staff and the support unit, as well as one line unit is coming from Austria, one is Hungarian and one is Turkish. Then the helicopter flight unit is from Austria, as well as other parts in the camp is near Ilica, outside from Sarajevo. So there is a firefighting unit and staff personnel, and then there throughout the country are so-called lots, that are liaison and observation teams, about 8 to 12, 15 officers, non-commissioned officers, and their task is to get as much information as possible from various sources. Military is not important, but from all kind of civilian sources, like universities or companies, factories, normal people, and so on, churches, etc. To get to have always a picture what is going on in the country. They are very important. So Austrians are there in and around Tuzla, for example, and then they have the Swiss and some other countries have these lots throughout the country, and that comes together in the HQ of EUFOR, and then all the reports will be then periodically sent to the respective place in the European Union. Yeah.
So in the military,
the biggest contributor is Austria now. Yes.
No, very good. Austria, a very strong contributor to security and stability in Bosnia, but also in many other aspects. Austria is now in post-war Bosnia in the last 25 years, 26 years, a strong contributor to development. For example, in the economy. Can you name some of the big companies which are invested in Bosnia?
This is not my area, I must say.
But you see the banks and the insurances.
Yes,
and
the banks. This is also the, as I said, the road building. What is at the moment stopped because they run out of money, as far as I know. However, then also through the society we have there, I have links to private initiatives. Often former Bosnians who are living now in Austria, they organize, let's say, the special activities on agriculture and so on, in order to keep people down there, because that is the main problem of Bosnia, that especially the younger, they see have no perspective, or it's a problem to get jobs, and so they start to leave the country, and then there are quite a number of civilian initiatives to keep people down and to get them jobs, also in the let's say humanitarian side. So there are last time we spent quite a number of computers for a hospital in BIH and so on. What on the other side means that they can employ another 1 or 2 people and so on. Yeah. So the big economy players, I think, can be found in the internet and in the Chamber of Commerce.
But Austria is very active with in Bosnia in all aspects of the society, health, cooperation, universities, and also interpersonal and in the civil society.
It is, if not the first, but it is on the very top of suppliers, yes. And that is appreciated, yeah.
Bosnia now wants to join NATO. Do you support NATO membership of Bosnia?
Yeah, because that would avoid that within the Bosnian army that it is would be divided into the according to the ethnic situation. It is already so that it consists of, as far as I know, 3 brigades, and the Bosniak brigade is in for example, in Sarajevo. The Serb is in Banja Luka. The Croatic is in Mostar. However, the international community is very strict on that the top of the military structure is always changing and rotating and so on, and is mixed. So if the defense minister is from that side, then the chief of general staff is from the other, and the army commander is from the third. And so, but when this army will become part of NATO, then it even more is forced to work together, as it was in the old Austria-Hungarian army. Therefore, I'm in favor of that. Yes, and I think that may even happen in not near but in future.
Mr. Wildberger, let me ask you about the European Union future of Bosnia. Do you support the EU membership of Bosnia?
Yeah, there I see the situation more negative, I must say, because the out of the Dayton agreement, especially the Serbian side is not prepared to make any changes in the constitution and so on. Sorry, and so the EU will, of course, have some requests, and the question is whether Bosnia and Herzegovina is able to fulfill them, and there I see a problem. Yes. However, just one comment: the Serbic side, especially under Mr. Dodik, is not feeling as Bosnians, but as Serbs, and they wanted to become to get reunified with Serbia. However, Serbia is not interested in, because Serbia clearly knows that in that case it wouldn't get a chance to join the EU, and so I'm in favor to that Serbia as soon as possible would become member of EU, and in that case then it would be the chance for Bosnia to agree to some necessary changes that could then get a better chance for them to join you. Yes.
Mr. Wildberger, let me ask you about the future of Austrian-Bosnian relation. Is there some initiative possible in the coming years for intensifying our cooperation, Austria supporting EU accession of Bosnia specifically as contribution for peace in the Balkans, and also to live up to our common heritage and help the Bosnian EU accession more?
Yeah, Austria will, of course, from my point of view, be in favor to that Bosnia-Herzegovina becomes member of EU. However, Austria will also tell them how the way to her would be, and in the meantime, we keep the best possible connections and relations to this country, and I can say, even from the Bosnian and Herzegovinian side, that Austria is a very, let's say, beloved country for them, and always when I'm down there, there are not any problems towards Austrians and so on, and the embassy also knows about it, and fortunately, years ago, even with our pressure is too much to say, but we always were asking the political and respective administrative side to lift the ban or the regulation that the Bosnians needed at this time a visa for Austria. So okay, fortunately that happened.
So you're
yes.
very positive for Austria and Bosnian relation in the coming decade to be ever closer and more intensive.
Concerning the relationship between Austria and Bosnia-Herzegovina,
Yes.
I see that very positive. Yes, also for economic reasons, for example. Also the communities here, they are, as already said, integrated, and they can also do something for them, and they show that Bosnians are people who can work with. Yes, from that point of view, I'm optimistic. Only when it comes to the EU membership, I'm not so optimistic at the moment. Yeah.
Mr. Wildberger, I'm sure you have been many times in Bosnia.
Many times is too much, but I try to be down there at least twice a year. Yeah.
So share some of your experience and also some personal assessment. Which is your favorite city to visit? And do you recommend Bosnia for Austrian tourists to visit in the summer, in the winter? What's your personal impression about Bosnia as a tourist destination?
Bosnia is a wonderful country. Yes, I wonder why they not, let's say, the how to say, it is not that much presented as a tourist country as it should be. That may also lay on the infrastructure. It's true. So you won't find hotels everywhere throughout the country. Also, it is from the landscape, and it's a wonderful country. The rivers surprisingly are or look very clean, and also the historical sites are very interesting in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Yes.
Would you recommend every Austrian to visit Sarajevo?
Definitely, yes. Yeah. And Sarajevo itself is a city like Jerusalem, so you can find all four religions there, and also their buildings, and it is a mixture from Orient with Occident, and is very interesting, and developing more and more. But yes, and I think Austria should start to, or if maybe it has already has, to assist in developing this side of economy. Yes,
there's
sure.
Also a beautiful Mostar, which is with this world famous bridge.
Yeah, and near Mostar, near Mostar is Medjugorje, and Medjugorje, quite a lot of pilgrim tours are organized from Austria there, as I myself could see. And for example, in Mostar, we also assist the Austrian Black Cross War Graves Commission in rebuilding, or in finding and in rebuilding the old Austro-Hungarian cemeteries. And there's a huge one in Mostar. And from the foreign guides group in Mostar, they also came to the Black Cross and to us. We should, as soon as possible, reconstruct this cemetery, because they found out that the Croats, for example, they organize tourist trips from Dubrovnik up to Mostar for the Japanese and other tourists. So in a package, and now they feel the bridge alone is not enough, so we must offer more. And especially for the Austrians, if they go to Medjugorje and make a trip to Mostar, they could also then be drawn to this cemetery, for example, and so on. So there is something in move, that is true, and even from their own side, there's not necessarily to put pressure on. They see their own, especially among the youngsters, they see and look into their own history, and they do something out of it, and that is positive.
There's also this beautiful city of Jajce with this beautiful waterfall and the Tito Museum. It's also amazing.
Yes, it is indeed. Jajce was the former capital of their own kingdom when they had it, and there's also this old mosques, the typical Bosnian mosques with the wooden turrets, not as the modern white ones. They have them now from the old times and so on. Yeah.
Banja Luka is with this beautiful castle. That's also quite amazing.
Banja Luka, of course, yeah. Banja Luka has also a good history, the castle.
Do you expect that once the river is also very beautiful. Do you expect once the highway from Vienna to Sarajevo and Mostar will be ready, maybe in 2-3 years, I don't know, that's the hope, that there will be much more Austrians going and driving and buses coming to visit these beautiful cities of Bosnia?
Yeah, that is when the communication means and the roads and so on offer a rather quick trip there, then of course many people, and especially the tourist bureaus will jump on that possibility. They are always looking for new destinations, and Bosnia within Europe could be one of the best, for sure. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Mr. Wildberger, I would like now to close this interview. Thank you very much for your time, also for your passion, for your engagement lifelong for Bosnia, for security, for peace, for helping the Bosnians and also to integrate them in Austria, and also keeping this memory of 40 years common statehood with Bosnia alive, this great military tradition we share together, and hopefully also this common future in the European Union. That would be, of course, amazing. And now, Mr. Wildberger, maybe some closing statement, and thanks a lot for your passion, for your care, for your love for Bosnia.
I have to thank you for giving me the possibility to bring some aspects on that theme, Austria and Bosnia-Herzegovina in Europe, I must say, because I'm a fanatic Europe here.
Very good. The European future of European Bosnia with Austrian Bosnian society. I think all viewers who watch that, if they want to support and work for the European future, to contact you and the Austrian Bosnian society to advance the European accession and the Austrian Bosnian friendship. That's the role of the Austrian Bosnian society, and more to expect in the future. Thanks a lot, Mr. Wildberger.
Always welcome. Thank you much.